bloody shows. What are they? What's the facts about them? And how long can you have a bloody show before you go into labour? Can you have more than one bloody show? Are shows always bloody? Hi, I'm Fray, and I'm a semi-retired senior midwife and a best-selling maternity author, and welcome along. And I'm going to explain over the next few minutes all about shows and bloody shows and mucus plugs and what it's all about. All right, so the cervix, which is the neck of the womb. So you've got your womb, and then right at the bottom you've got the cervix, and the cervix is what stays very fiercely closed with the womb above it during the course of your pregnancy. And the cervix should feel like during most of your pregnancy, the cervix should be long and firm, and it feels like the tip of your nose. You know, it's sort of like almost like a cartilage feel to it. And your cervix is right at the very top of your vagina. So, if this is you standing upright, your vagina is not that way. Your vagina is on a bit of an angle, and your cervix comes down basically on like a right angle to it, pretty much. And so if you push your finger far enough to the top of your vagina, you will hit your cervix and you'll feel it. And then as the pregnancy progresses, the cervix sort of ends up being a little bit more facing downwards to eventually when you're actually in labour and the cervix is fully facing down and the cervix completely opens up. And that is now the formation of the birth canal. All right, so the cervix or neck, or bottom of the womb, bottom of the womb or neck of the womb, it's often called, towards the end of your pregnancy, naturally should be becoming a lot softer. We call it the ripening of the cervix. We want it to ideally get to the point where it's so soft and so stretchy before you go into strong active labour, because the softer and stretchier or more riper your cervix is prior to you going into labour, the shorter your labour. Now, oftentimes the early part or latent labour is all about softening and stretching and ripening that cervix, so that by the time you establish successfully into strong active labour, which of course is defined, if you watch some of my other posts here, as having 3 to 4 contractions every 10 minutes, all over a minute long, that you can't talk through. So everything before that, before having 3 to 4 contractions every 10 minutes, all over a minute long, that you can't talk through, everything before that is latent or early labour, and that's about softening and ripening the cervix. So, once the cervix does start to soften and ripen, eventually it should be to the point where it feels like your lips. It's really soft and stretchy. And that takes a while for the body to sort of break down the inside contents of each cell so that it becomes softer and stretchier. All right. And that's at the point then, once you start to have some decent contractions. I'm talking, a really good strong contraction that you can't talk through for a good 45 to 60 seconds, every sort of 3 or 4 minutes. At that point, that will be starting to efface or shorten your cervix and starting to open it, so dilatate. So all this way through, all of that going on, you can potentially have bloody shows. So bloody shows are not something that occurs once. It may only occur once, or your body might just spit out this really good whole lump of the whole mucus plug that was there, or it might be spitting out little bits of it. So you can have bloody shows or cervical shows anytime up until about 2 weeks before going into labour, or it could be 2 hours before you're in labour. But the point that you've had a bloody show doesn't mean you're about to have a baby. If you're not having contractions. Contractions will tell you when you're about to have a baby. Okay. Right. So, now, normally within about 24 hours of the onset of labour, or as I say, frustratingly up to a couple of weeks ahead. Many women, not all, but many, will have one or more shows, and a lot of times they'll be bloody, or they'll have bits of blood through them. It's when, as I say, the cervix has painlessly dislodged a clear or pink or blood-tinged gelatinous mucus plug called the operculum. It looks like a bit of egg white like snot, or a little bit like jellyish mucus. Now, since early in your pregnancy, the mucus plug has filled and sealed that cervical canal. So it's a great sign to have a show, because it means that the neck of the cervix is already beginning to efface or shorten, which is very cool. And look, some believe that at that point it can be a wise idea to abstain from sex once the mucus plug has dislodged. Yeah, I would say if you're not having contractions, yeah, bonk away, because that you having actually you don't even need, well, there are prostaglandins in male sperm which helps to ripen a cervix, and you having orgasms is a cervical movement, so that can help you go into labor as well. But once you're actually having contractions, no, don't be having sex. That gets a bit weird and funky. Okay. Since early in pregnancy, once establishing into labor, you can continue to have bloody shows as your cervix continues to open. And the amount of blood that can be accompanying this snotty, mucusy, egg white looking gelatinous plug can be anything up to sort of the equivalent of what you'd expect to see with a bloody nose. You know, if you had a bloody nose, it's that kind of amount of blood can there, and it should be just come out, and it's just, and it can be come out with a plug, or might have some plug and then have a bit more sort of spotting, bleeding, but you're not actively hemorrhaging. Okay, you don't have blood running down the side of your legs or filling a pad in half an hour. You know, that's different. That's hemorrhaging, and hemorrhaging when you're not in labour and not in hospital, and it's towards the end of your pregnancy or any time in pregnancy, that is potentially a very serious thing, and you need to get to hospital. If you're actively hemorrhaging, you could be having a placental abruption, which is an obstetric emergency. So get to hospital pronto, but that is a rare situation, okay? Most of the time, it's just, bits of blood coming out here and then, and as I say, anything not actively hemorrhaging and anything about the equivalent of a bloody nose is all very normal and common and positive, exciting. So when you get a bloody show, just know, all right, things are happening. Your cervix is ripening. You're going to go into spontaneous labor soon. Yeah. Now you'll see on other posts that I've got here where we talk about actively ripening your cervix. So yeah, you definitely want to be doing that proactively, engaging with my best recommendation, always, absolutely, without doubt, is to engage with a one-on-one with a naturopathic maternity health wellness supplement specialist, like a medical herbalist physician, and be absolutely proactively engaging and investing in cervical ripening, and making sure that your womb is toned and your cervix is ripe, leading, it's called birth prep or partus preparatus. You want to be doing that. And then, you want to get your cervix as ripe as possible before you go into labor. Get obsessed with it. It's the best way to shorten the length of labor and keep you and baby as safe as possible, because the shorter the labor, the safer the labor. Yeah. Okay, especially with first babies, man, you want to put all the effort in to ripen that cervix, girls. Ripen that cervix. Okay, so that you can have lots and lots of bloody shows. Fantastic. All right, bye everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your week. See ya.